Hello, dear viewers. I am your regular host, SPNanon here of the Strip Poker Night at the Inventory podcast, and I have a question for you. What does the number 130 mean to you? Well, Nord, my co-host.
It means that there have been 129 episodes leading to this moment. The long-awaited promised day is here, where we get to record episode 130 of the Strip Poker Night at the Inventory podcast.
But there's actually been more than that, considering all the 0.5s and such. I went over this in episode 100. Mike, what does the number 130 mean to you?
That is a fair question. I'm afraid nothing specific is coming to mind.
Garchomp's attack stat, perhaps? Jolteon's speed stat? Latios' special attack? Gengar's special attack? Anything that's not a Pokemon-based stat? I can't think of anything. Other than, of course, as Nord said, it is episode 130. Let's get right into it. We have two fresh testing roster characters to talk about today. And by fresh, I mean several months old. And a main roster release who has punched through the heavens, drilled through them. That is the testing roster and into the great beyond, the infinite cosmos. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. And as usual, I'm sure Nord was involved in each and every one of these.
Technically speaking, isn't Purah also main roster now?
Is she? I guess she is, yeah. I think we'll talk about her. We'll probably give her a second segment in the future. I think I may have already written that down anyway. Yeah, I did. So this, I mean, it'll be a little muddy, but we still want to give characters at least two segments if they did make it to main. For now, though, this will be like just first and general impressions of, as he mentioned, Purah from The Legend of Zelda. I believe she debuted in Breath of the Wild, but this is more specifically from her appearance in Tears of the Kingdom when she's no longer a Lolibaba. Is that correct?
Yes, so Purah has had multiple designs in the Breath of the Wild timeline or incarnation, whatever. I don't know advanced Zelda lore, I only know basic Zelda lore. But basically, in Breath of the Wild, she had managed to de-age herself and was now a child again. They did Age of Calamity, which was a spin-off Warriors game where you get to see her how she originally was as a young adult. And then in Tears of the Kingdom, she has managed to age herself back up again to an ambiguous but decidedly adult and very exciting design, shall we say, with how the internet immediately reacted to it.
Cougar, Gilfy. Is that what we're going with?
Essentially. She's casually discovered the fountain of youth and no one makes a big deal with it. Just like a lot of things aren't made a big deal in Tears of the Kingdom for some reason.
How many Gilfs do we have in SPNatI?
I want to say 2.
Who's the other one?
Mercy from Overwatch, who is a lot older than she looks. But science means she looks eternally young, mid-20s.
Well, anyway, yeah, you worked on this as a collaboration with Namasp a little while ago. Did you only do the art?
I only did the art. I gave my initial input to the writing in terms of how I would approach her. But no, just as a fun little joint project together. I did all of the art up front with 1 or 2 additions as he needed them, and then Namasp just did his usual thing where he writes a character in 2 days, presumably shotgunning some kind of alcohol in the process. He's got it down to an art at this point of managing to get out a character relatively quickly and then not spending too long on the testing. In fact, with his newest character, Mina, he's actually thinking of going for sponsorship already after only, I think, a couple of weeks. But yeah, do have a note here just about her development process, which is that it was a lot of fun to make the art. It had particular challenges. I had to work out how to do the oversized sleeves of her coat. That was an entire endeavor onto itself of inventing new ways of doing something. I've been getting better at using Adobe Animate to draw vector image attachments, which helps make the art look cleaner in the final version.
I did want to praise the sleeves. Yeah, it's not easy to do, and even our heavily modified Kisekai. But these look pretty natural. I guess that makes sense if you just drew them.
And then another note I have is a bit of a negative, which is that because it was a bit of a rough time. So I'm going to be a bit vague here, but people who are in the servers will know it was a bit of a rough time for the community last year, and so around the time where Namas was really stuck into writing her and putting her through testing, going through sponsorship, I wasn't really in the right headspace to give him as much input as I maybe could have or would have liked. Having played with her again for this is my first time seeing some of her newer-ish lines, but it is a lot more of what I had already seen when she first launched into testing, and I think Namas has done a good job. He's hit all of the points I would have wanted him to hit with I guess I would say Purah is a mature nerd, and you can contrast with another character Namasp has written, Sucrose, who is a very shy and inexperienced laboratory nerd.
Oh god, that's true. She's like the evolved form of sucrose.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of characters you can sort of write on vibes. Pure is one where you do have to pull up a lot more stuff specific to the Breath of the Wild setting, because Zelda does this thing where they reuse names and concepts, but you reuse them in new ways all the time, so you just have to make sure you're not accidentally referring to something that doesn't actually exist or exists in a completely different context in the newest Zelda games. But I think he's done a good job with that. But I'll let you and of course Mike can have the floor now. I think I've said all I really have in terms of the development side of things.
I don't think I reintroduced Mike, other than
Yes.
saying he was our returning guest. But
Yes.
from last time, who worked on Arafuda and then also Reagan Ridley, who we covered on last episode. But yeah, Mike, what did you think of Purah?
So I have to start with her art. I think she is currently one of the most attractive characters on the roster, just from a pure visuals perspective. Absolutely jaw-dropping. You knocked it out of the park. I think I liked her what I call anti-body language. I like that she tends to take a rather wide stance. I think she's a person with a very solid, very confident body language who's not afraid to be a little bit more aggressive and forward. She's very much not a shrinking violet. I like how I think one of the things that makes her so good is the fact that she leans into her status as a newly youthful person who is mature as well. You really do get the feeling that she's a person with, she's I think she's over 100 years of experience, who's suddenly experiencing having the body of a mid-20s woman again, and is going to have all the fun she possibly can with that. I think that's an incredibly sexy concept, and I think it's very well executed. I think at times she can come across as a little bit heavy on the lore dumping and the vocabulary lessons, as I call them, where it feels like she is trying to basically teach the player, or be like, this is what we call a share a piece of lore from the Zelda universe. It's tricky because she is a nerd, but I feel like so it does make sense that she would talk like that, but it also does sometimes come across as like she's just bringing in trivia that's a little bit out of context for the game. Let's see. I also do like that she doesn't necessarily start off just by sharing her entire deal, and she sort of slow plays it over the course of the game, revealing more and more about herself and her attitude and situation. I think it leads to a very nice progression where we get to know her as the game progresses. She has the disappointingly rare in SPNatI ability to not always tell the truth. I think the fact that she lies or stretches the truth quite a bit is very fun, and I wish a lot more characters would do that. I think we do have a bit of a norm in SPNatI that whenever a character says anything, pretty much they're always telling the truth, which misses out on so much characterization that you can get from having characters bullshit or present themselves in a slightly misleading way. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think she is, honestly, a lot of my notes about her just describe her as sexy or incredibly hot. She is incredible, and you did a great job with her art.
Now you mean like not just bluffing, but her just lying about herself? About herself?
Yes. I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't remember what line it was that made me notice that, but she absolutely does say some slightly inaccurate things about herself and her lore in ways that are more flattering to herself. I'm trying to remember what it was. I wish I'd remembered to write down what line instead of just trusting that I'd remember it. But she absolutely does. She tells some white lies, you might say.
I think it's just like, for a lot of SPNatI characters, if they misrepresented themselves, players would just take that at face value because they don't know the character well enough.
This is true.
As we mentioned last time, a lot of scrimblows on this roster. So you only get one chance to make an impression. It might as well be the correct one. Characters are often written more honest than they otherwise would be, just for the sake of facilitating interactions.
That makes sense.
But that does kind of tie into some of the thoughts I had on Purah here. If you have anything else to say first.
I think that's me set. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she definitely has this supreme air of confidence as a motif. She's very casual about de-aging and all of her research, and she's so matter-of-fact about everything, including the game, but also herself, even though it's insane that she's done this to herself. She's very spacey but friendly at the same time. She's curious but self-absorbed. She often just fills time with lore or with idle thoughts, which is something I've it's something Namas has done with his characters a lot historically and has advised others to do. Sometimes I think he might overplay that a little bit, but it does fit Purah in particular very well to just kind of daydream in that sense and not feel too perturbed by anything that's going on. Sometimes she just stares, or she pouts, or she makes lame jokes, or she puts on this little scanner mask that makes her look like an owl or something. Very funny. She does often feel more like an observer, but than a participant in the game, is the impression I got. But I mean, that is pretty befitting of a scientist, especially one so mature and aged. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it fits his style, and I think it fits the kind of character she is. So I don't have too much to critique there. Nord, are you back yet? You said you had to step out for a second. Okay, because you worked on the art, obviously, and I want to say that I like how her silhouette changes pretty substantially over the course of the game. First you have the loose-fitting shawl and sleeves that she has going on, but she takes that off and sort of her other skirts and other kind of loose-fitting clothing. She's got several different layers going on there, and it slowly evolves. I like the tights / pantyhose that she has. There's not a ton of characters with that going on. I think you sold the de-aged body just well enough because she's got big boobs and they look nice. I like the outlines on her nipples and things, but like there's just a little hint of like sag, like how her nipples are kind of centered. I think the upper parts of them, because they're so big, could use a little bit more like detail or texture or whatever. But on the whole,
Difficult because, like, realistically, there's nothing really to add there aside from more highlighting, but that doesn't really
yeah,
fit.
it could be like highlights or like hatching, anything to give like just a hint of like the curvature, some more. I know sometimes you just got to make stuff up to put there.
Clearly, she should have a mole.
A what?
A mole.
Oh, yeah. Can't de-age your way out of that.
I do want to say that it very much becomes a thing of once you try to like replicate this outfit, you very much ask yourself, okay, what is actually going on here? I think she even has a line if she wins where she's like, hey, do you want to see what the dangly gold bit looks like? And it's like, yeah, what is that? Because it's like literally just it's just hanging like a gold like grate or something that's just like quite decorative to make her asymmetrical. And if you look at it close enough, there's bits of it that are just kind of hovering. So it's like, unless there's some like transparent material holding it together or invisible string or something, that legitimately shouldn't work.
I think that's my read just looking at it. I think it's supposed to be some kind of very, very sheer, very, very see-through thin silk or something like that with gold trim on it.
I like how, I don't know if this is self-contained in a pose itself or a pose maker, but in our masturbation stage, I like how there's some dripping / wet spots going on, like below her model, like where the shadow is. It's a nice bit of detail. But I did think it was a little disappointing that there didn't seem to be any visual change for her final stage, like the finished. Like maybe she could have let her hair down or something.
Maybe.
And I have a final question to ask you, Nord. Has she de-aged herself back into fertility? Did she reverse menopause? Can she get pregnant?
Sure, let's go with that.
What if you got her pregnant and then she de-aged herself? What would happen to the baby?
The goddess Hylia would smite you. A wizard did it.
It's a JoJo reference, getting de-aged back into a fetus. I liked her well enough, even if I thought she felt a bit removed from things. Again, that seemed appropriate for her. So the elderly edition guy should be very happy. And what I did see was very entertaining and overall, very sexy and casual and cool. But yeah, do you have any other thoughts about her?
I did think that we actually do have a pretty surprising number of older characters, like even people like Arafuda, for example, who is 200 plus. I do think it was nice to see her written with a more authentic feeling maturity.
We're very slowly getting a number of characters who are written. Well, I think maturity is relative, but in SPNatI terms, it means like 30 plus, or at least ambiguously so, and then written to like just have a general air of maturity. I don't know if Arafuda counts because isn't she quite? She's
not mature. No, she's not mature at all.
Like chronologically, yes. Yeah. Personality, no.
I always think that the reason for that is basically that she's just taken her 200 years to goof around and put off growing up, basically. Well,
she's like 20 in elf years, right?
Yeah.
She should like talk to Frieren.
Mm-hmm. Honestly.
I'm glad I got to collaborate with Namasp on her.
I have to ask. I don't think you did, but I have to ask. Did you collaborate with If I May on Dolce at all?
So she has a knitting pose, and I have offered in the past if anyone needs hands to be drawn for unique poses, they can ask me. So for Dolce's knitting pose, I did draw the hands for this. But that is the extent of my contribution.
Dolce, I'm told, is one of the many love interests in this like dating, farming, life sim type game that Rune Factory is. She is from Rune Factory 4, I'm told, again, in the haphazard slapdash research we did right before this episode was recorded. We talked about Scrimblows. We talked about obscure DS games and the like with like Vanessa and Luminous Arc. We discovered that Dolce was on the cover, actually, of Rune Factory 4, so she's a little bit less of a Scrimblow in that regard. But we do have two other Rune Factory characters, Selfie and Sophia, by Just Kidding. So as far as Scrimblows go, they're doing pretty well in the Rune Factory space. And I don't remember if the games are connected at all or if the characters would know Dolce. But she, I believe, is from Rune Factory 4. She's normally accompanied by a little ghost girl she's like 8 or something, or 6 years old, but eternally a ghost. She is not present for the game, and the description makes very clear mention of that. It's like, no kids in this strip poker game, even if they're dead kids. No bueno. But yeah. Yet another Rune Factory character, and this is by If I May, who has gone quiet for a little bit, but this got a lot of development attention. He posted a lot about it for all his projects, and he's made quite a few. This is like his absolute number one to his grave waifu, is Dolce from Rune Factory 4, of all characters. She is very quiet, she's reserved and stoic, and even a bit standoffish. And I think he may have even asked me a couple times for like comparisons or input, from the Maya perspective. Although, honestly, after playing with her, I think she's even more turned up and unsociable than Maya is. So if you're a fan of the really stoic characters, then Dolce may be for you. But, Mike, you were the saving grace of that initial research, and that you told me all this about Rune Factory. I think you have played the games. Did you say that?
I have played Rune Factory 4. I have not finished it, so my knowledge is somewhat limited. I'll admit I did not. But even still. Yeah. So I have a little bit of familiarity. So the first thing I made a note of is that I really appreciate how her SPNatI art uses sort of soft, low saturation colors that really look very authentic to the Rune Factory art style. I think she looks very much like a Rune Factory character in SPNatI, which is interesting because the SPNatI as a game, it generally uses a very harsh, high contrast lighting. Like if you ever look at characters, like they have very bright highlights on them. The colors tend to be very bold, even compared to a lot of times characters get a little bit like, I don't know how to put it, maybe a little bit like fast foodized when they get put into the SPNatI art style. They get all the color saturation turned way up, all the highlights and shadows made very harsh. So it's kind of cool to see Dolce's art stay authentic to her sort of more subdued, desaturated style from her games. I do actually find myself thinking that as nice as it is that there is a coherent SPNatI art style, it is also fun when somebody just comes walking in looking like they came from a completely different game, because it really does sort of highlight the crossover nature of SPNatI. Let's see. I think she does a very good job of establishing her unique voice. It's very, very strong right from the beginning of the game. You immediately understand that she's a very, very stoic and reserved and careful person. I appreciated the dramatic irony of her basically as soon as the game starts going on a rant about how perverted everybody is and how she thinks this game is stupid, which again, I'm calling it dramatic irony and not a writing flaw that she's still taking part, because I think we're supposed to understand that she's still here for a reason, and she's written well enough that she doesn't come across as like she's embarrassed or like she's being forced to be here. It definitely comes across like there's some cognitive dissonance going on, that she feels the need to explain that it's not like she likes this or anything. Let's see. I do think that as much as she does spend a lot of good time establishing her personality early on, I think in my game, she only mentioned that ghosts exist about halfway through the game, so it felt like a bit of a sudden drop that she didn't ease you in at all. She just started talking about ghosts as if they were something you already knew about. So I think it might make sense to give her a little bit more, a line or two to just be like, oh, hey, by the way, I talk to ghosts.
Should point out that like that and some other lore that she has going on is like the reason she is so detached and standoffish. She doesn't want to like form connections and like lose the memories of like the people that she's now time displaced from, I believe.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Like, and that has to do with like, you know, ghost, like companion stuff. I think she went to like some other realm to do something, and she left behind her old family, and like, it's like a century later, so they're gone now. But she like doesn't want to start over.
I see. Yeah. I think I didn't get that far enough to find that out when I played the game. I only played it for a bit, so good to know. Let's see. I thought her her sort of slow playing the stripping was very funny. I enjoyed her basically just taking off very small items and and being like, "What? I'm stripping." And it was especially funny when she broke out the knitting pose. I thought that was extremely funny. She she did a good job of seeming very unengaged and a bit bored. I thought that she did repeat some lines that felt like they probably should have been given the play once checkbox. I think basically lines that have, I think anytime a character realizes something or like has an insight, it makes sense to give that a play once, because it just doesn't make sense that a character would come to the same conclusion more than one time in a game. Let's see. I liked how she got more medical as the game went along. I think it's pretty much always a good time when a character starts to talk about their anatomical knowledge as people start getting naked and try to sort of like intellectualize the nudity and discuss the human body. I think that can be a very fun gimmick to lean into. I like that she had authentically old school looking, historical underwear. This is something that's almost never done. I think it's very unfortunate to me that both in SPNatI and in porn games and stuff in general, it's by far the norm to see characters wearing, modern day bra and panties with elastic and stuff, and then that just look completely synthetic and out of place in a historical setting. So I appreciate that she had underwear that could be made using period accurate materials. And I think her custom boobs look very good. I think they're very cute.
Nord, you posted what I believe is her in a swimsuit from the game. I'm surprised that even goes that far with her. She doesn't look any more enthused about it.
Yeah, it seems to be the Rune Factory does just seem to have swimsuits, so it also seems to be sort of game that has like the seasonal events, of course, like summer and Christmas, so makes sense and must have been a good reference. Going by that, I think If I May has done a good job with, was it just If I May? Nomlet did the model, Corky the Cactus did the eyes and twin tails, and If I May did all the posing. So with the multiple contributors in mind, I think it's got a good result that looks well enough like she does in Source, while still being a good adaptation to the front-facing 2D Kisekai art style. I do know for a fact that If I May has been bumping up against the ceiling of file space while she's on testing and had to compromise in some areas with like how much her posing does, but even so, the art is incredibly like detailed and the posing is really good despite being reserved. It's never too stiff or awkward looking. She does cover up with her hat for all of her like stripping stages, but then when she's done with the forfeit, she puts the hat back on her head, so you get a clear view of everything all at once, and that's just really good way of doing that. in a way that sort of like rewards the player better for beating her rather than just seeing her lose a few times. It's great seeing her like sip tea or knit, and like you can tell when she's like bored of the game until she's forced to approach the spicier elements of it. She has the slightly unusual strip order in that she like takes her skirt off first and then later justifies it by saying that she doesn't want to like bend down and get the skirt dirty with it touching the ground. I think that was like funny, like a sort of like, okay, yeah, sure, let's go with that excuse to like give her an unusual strip order, where it's clearly, I know If I May, or I can guess that If I May probably just likes that look on her, and it is a fun look, and it does change things up from what you might expect, where most characters like her, I would imagine, would like take items off in a very linear way, so it's good to shake things up like that. I think that about covers the notes I had for her. Going to what you have said about her not talking about ghosts for half the game, she was pretty open about like Pico in my game, where she mentioned Pico almost right away, and then dialed it down as the game went on. In her banter with Purah, I think she talked about being a half-elf. I should have written down about the banter actually, but like Purah was asking if she's like Hylian,
yeah.
And then I think Dolce said that she was a half elf or something like that. Oh god, I should have made more notes about that because I didn't know this would be so relevant, but I couldn't find on the wiki it confirming that she isn't just supposed to be human with weird ears. Yeah, that about covers what I had noted down from my test game with her.
Fat pussy. That's the biggest note that I wrote for her in the art section.
Thank you. You've said it so that I don't have to.
I was about to ask if you agreed. Yeah, no wonder she's hiding away from the world. You can't just, I mean, it's going to draw a lot of uncomely attention. Yeah, I gotta agree with like all her little futzing and fidgeting around. Even when she the pose where she pinches her nose. That's a fun one that she uses a lot. Let me see if I can pull that one up real quickly. I don't know what it's called, exasperated or something, migraine. And her sipping tea or pinching her gloves and like not wanting to wrinkle them when she takes those off, or knitting. I will say, yeah, especially compared to Purah, her Dolce's silhouette does not change very much from strip to strip. A lot of them do feel insubstantial until she eventually just kind of takes off a lot of her outfit all at once. That's the underwear reveal, where let's see if I can post them back to back here so you can see like how dramatic the change is. Here we go. Everything but like the train of the dress, it all comes off at once, and she's left in her underwear. But like the actual stripping post, she just kind of reaches behind herself, and then it all vanishes. So if you're gonna hold us off for that long and keep us in anticipation, I do think you should do a little bit more when the moment finally arrives, and show that removal a little bit more. Always something good to work on. She's not super animated or expressive even when she like gets angry, and she does have like an angry pose. Annoyed, contempt. Let's see if it's one of these. It may even be a stage specific one, but even like very late in the game, she did not get even when she got angry, she didn't look all that angry. But I will praise the little animation she had with like, she got a little bouncy and she like took her hat off to like cover herself, and then eventually did a similar animation for putting it back on and revealing herself, as Nord mentioned. I like that as well. You know, that's good, very like visual communication of how embarrassed she is in her progression over the course of the game. And the hat itself is probably her most like distinguishing like the most distinguishing feature of her silhouette. You know, cute anime girl in a top hat. You don't see that a lot, but it's very standout and very cute. And it's used well for the reasons mentioned. And just to reiterate, fat pussy. On the writing side, again, he deliberated a lot, if I may. He deliberated a lot on not only like very small differences in like facial posing, but also like the way she should be written. And I do think she can sometimes come off as overly stoic, overly standoffish, where it seems like maybe she's complaining a little bit too much, or that she almost like genuinely doesn't want to be there, even though the point is that she's just supposed to be like tsundere about it. Like, it feels like there's not enough of like the dere, I guess, early on. It's all kind of packed away right at the end, for the most part. She gives you very little early on. So like, well done, but maybe just not balanced out enough. Or like there's nothing else to really chew on there. And this kind of leads into what I suspect may be the issue there is this is a character who in the source material has a companion. You know, she is supposed, because she is so not forthcoming, she has what I presume to be a companion character who kind of says what she is really thinking in Pico. But this is a porn game and she's like a dead child, very young child. So he made a point of not having her there, but you can kind of tell that something is missing from Dolce's dynamic when she doesn't have that character around voicing what she's really thinking. That is something that I think Maya and Jura both benefited a lot from having companions, because it allowed you to see another side of them that you wouldn't otherwise. And I suspect that that's what's going on with Pico, and I'm not sure how we would get around that. Maybe she could just like communicate disembodiedly. Like maybe she can't see what Dolce is seeing, but they can like talk. I don't know. Maybe Pico could be like totally clueless as to what Dolce is doing. She could like try to wave her off, like, oh, don't worry about it.
I can't help but think my immediate thought, just having come just from working on Reagan, is that I honestly think that this is a place where comedy might be a useful tool. Again, not to make her a funny character, but to maybe just push some of the stuff she says a little bit further to make it more. Basically, you can have her say things without really saying them if you make what she says a little ridiculous. Like, you know, a lot of the classic tsundere type behaviors consist of saying things that are maybe a little ridiculous on the face of them, but with a completely straight face as a way to communicate one's true feelings without ever saying anything that technically violates one's stoic demeanor.
As far as other notes go, she had highlighted text in exactly one line. I think that's just like a game mechanic reference. And overall, I think she does give a pretty good impression of like the different game mechanics that you would expect in a game like Rune Factory. You know, the dating life, like all the props that she has, and like hints in the dialogue for things that she wants. She has a good stoic terseness to her. And though she is standoffish, she is also often very funny with like her shower and idle thoughts and things. She feels very fettered and neurotic and judgy, which I would consider to be a lot less like Maya. Maya is kind of just like whatever, just go with the flow. They're both trying to be cold on purpose, but I think Maya's just like maybe got a little more life experience, or is less. She's around people who she knows won't be as judgmental, whereas Dolce at least perceives that she'll be judged for being here. Or she's just trying to project her own misgivings, I suppose. I wonder if she's also what I would consider a bit of a collapse character. I've noticed that she started losing a lot more and a lot more quickly towards the end. I don't know if her IQ, her AI gets worse over time. I would have to check the spreadsheet or her data files. While I do that, though, if any of you, or if either of you have anything else you want to say about Dolce, overall, I still think she's a very entertaining and cute character, especially the stuff she does with her hat at the end. I do want to mention, though, that she does have numerous typos, even in her character select screen description, so she could probably use a proofread, if I may, if you're listening to this. But yeah, while I check her AI in the files, is there anything else you want to say about her, either of you?
It is great that someone like If I May is the one who had the sense to make her so that we don't end up with someone trying to age up the ghost child companion to act as a companion character to be another gimmick.
Okay, I was totally wrong. Apparently, her AI is actually worse early on. Shows what I know. Anyway, go ahead.
I think If I May has taken the right approach to making her in general. Now that he's back after a bit of a break, hopefully he can get her pushed through testing. I'd be very interested in bantering, seeing who she resonates with and who she completely stonewalls.
She's a very well-made character. You can tell the passion that If I May has for her is really coming out, and how he really wants to get her right. And I think he's on the right track. She just needs a little bit more to chew on. Again, I don't know what you can do with the Pico issue, but I do think he should do a little bit more to try to incorporate, at least, if not her herself, at least something of what she brings to the dynamic with Dolce. I don't know how you would do that. He would probably know better than me. But I do think there's a little bit something missing right now, as much as I like her and think she's very well made. Mike, anything?
I think that's about all I've got. I do. I think she's a very strong character. I think she has a very clear voice, and I think that's very good. I think she's often enjoyable more in a big picture sense than a moment to moment sense. She's having her be bored is fun. It's maybe doesn't necessarily lend itself to a lot of banger lines, but she's a solid addition.
I've noticed a trend over these last 2 episodes. Not just that Nord has worked on almost everything, but also there's only been one character in each of them that actually has a last name, and in this case, that last name is Jiha, belonging to Simone from Tangen Topa Gurrenlagen. And even then, it was just made up. It's just because that's the village he's from. Stude was illiterate and lived in a cave for the first 12 years of his life, or however old he was at the start of the series. I don't remember. I only saw it once, okay? Nord is the expert here. This is a character he made. He's finally on main now. Main roster. He burst through the heavens into all of our lives. It is the upgraded version of Kamina. Again, the evolved form. It is Simon, the main protagonist, and also Buta, his animal companion. He's allowed to have his companion, even though Buta is probably even younger than Pico is. It's just animals get a pass.
Buddha's 20 years old at this point as well. He just never grew into a full-sized pig mole. I also only called him Simon Jiha because Kamina had Jiha listed as a surname as well, so I decided to follow the trend.
Could have gone with the digger.
True.
Yeah, we already covered this on his testing segment, but what's changed in the interim? I know a lot of characters have been trying to get more poses interacting with Buta and jumping between their boobs, etc. I've been trying to make that happen, when I can. Not quite there yet, but I'm interested in doing that with Maya and Jera. I do think they should have a strong connection, as I said before, because of the spiritual, thematic connections between the two. They're kind of similar in their presentations, the two shows, both mechas combining and such. But yeah, what's been going on since we talked about them last?
The main thing is definitely the Buta stuff, because now that he's on main, I'm still looking to get him having banter with other characters. And something I've sort of dedicated myself to is well, he has a collectible for seeing 3 Buta interactions. Strictly speaking, they don't have to be unique interactions, so you could see the same one 3 times and get it. But it's possible to get it in one game if you pair him with the 3 characters that have the Buta interactions. They all happen at slightly different times, and it varies, like if it's based on Simone stripping or an opponent stripping. But in general, for all of his most targeted characters, I've made it a point to approach the other dev and say, if you want to do a Buta interaction, shall we work out what the best stage for that would be? And almost universally, people have agreed to do interactions with Buta. In fact, if you look in game at the Buta collectible after you've unlocked it, he actually makes use of the gallery feature to show off all of the different sprites that you can see. It even has a sneak peek view of Yoko Littner using the model provided by Sonic Joey. I've snuck that in there as well, even though she's not technically in the game yet. And, well, she isn't in development as far as I'm aware, but could always be made in future. But he has over 10 of them by now, I'm pretty sure. I've just finished writing banter so that he has ones with Monica and Mercy. So even more of them are coming soon. Or by the time this episode comes out, we'll probably already be in the game. Some of them are more wholesome interactions that I'll try and pull up here. Others are, of course, doing the running gag of Buta diving headfirst into cleavage. Yeah, in general, people have been very receptive to it, and the side effect of that is that I think Simone is one of my most popular dudes. The resort poll just completed, and he's in the, I want to say, top 50? 31st, actually, damn.
Congratulations.
Really good. Really good for a male character.
Nice.
He just needs to provide, extra boob poses to other female characters.
And for anyone else that's interested in adding these, just need to collaborate with me to make sure that Buta leaves Simone's space in time for the interaction to make sense. And all of his Buta sprites are in his folder to use. But that's basically all I have to say about Buta and the Big Mole. In terms of Simone himself, I would say that I haven't really changed much. I've fixed up some of his art, minor issues he may have had. But apart from that, he's pretty much the same guy. So I'd be interested to hear what the two of you think.
All right. If I might go first. I would say that he looks great. I have written down that he's a near pixel perfect recreation of his source image. It is absolutely incredible work he did there. I think his intro and overall dramatic framing feels extremely on brand and true to his source. Absolutely adore Buta. I think my favorite thing about him is how he matches Simone's expressions, and seeing him get upset when Simone's upset, or confident or whatever. It's absolutely adorable, and I love that. The body detailing is incredible. I think this is definitely one of the most sophisticated musculatures I've seen on a Kisake model. I think this body detailing does at times, unfortunately, make the Kisake default stand out a bit more, particularly when the arms are bent at more than 90 degrees and the elbow joint gets a thick line. It stands out and looks a little odd, but I think that may just be fundamental to the art style we're going with. I find myself wishing I knew more about what exactly part of the story you take him from, because I want to know, basically, is he currently with Nia? Has she passed on at this point? Is he a widower? Is he happily married? Is he still dating her? It was a little unclear, and I was curious because I felt like it would probably affect a lot of how he talks and feels about other characters. So I am curious if you where in the timeline he's supposed to be from exactly.
So if we're going to spoil a 19-year-old TV series or anime, this is your chance to tune out of the episode to avoid Gurren Lagann spoilers, I guess. Go watch it, it's great. It's very ambiguous in the way I've written him, in the same way that it is for Kamina, because Kamina technically wouldn't be viable either, because he is deceased. So the funny thing is, Gurren Lagann has crossed over with Super Robot Wars, and in that, they use a plot MacGuffin from another franchise to keep Nia and the head of Lord Genome alive after beating the anti-spirals. And so I have gone with, ambiguously, it's something like that, where if someone did, well, this is all dependent on someone making Nia for SPNatI, which I am talking to someone about, but not guaranteed for sure. So it does lead into that territory where Simone can and will and has mentioned Nia in present tense. Currently, then, because Nia isn't in SPNatI, it's a trust me, bro, she's okay with this sort of thing. But no, this Simone has not experienced the loss of Nia yet, or potentially ever. So if Nia was written, it would be like this is all written with the hypothetical of if someone did make Nia for SPNatI and she was in the game tomorrow, they could jump straight into, oh hell yeah, my fiance's here, and start smooching.
Okay. I asked in part because you did such a good job of writing it ambiguously. I actually wasn't sure if some of those lines were meant to be referring to her in the afterlife. You wrote it so with such a light touch that it felt like it was unclear to me whether he was talking about her watching from the great beyond or if she was actually just, at home in their apartment.
No,
I do think. No, yes.
If it gets into the fine details of it, as it does, and one or two banters he has, it refers to Nia in the present tense. But I do think, it was my overall approach to try and make it ambiguous, but particularly in a way that it doesn't drag the game down. If you do imagine that Nia's no longer here, because Simone's not that kind of guy anyway, and I think the biggest evidence that this is sort of a different version of him is that he can refer to fighting the anti-spirals in past tense, but he hasn't become a wandering vagrant as far as his SPNatI incarnation is concerned. So clearly something has happened differently. And then in banter with Kamina and Simone, their banter is slightly different depending on if they're the only two NPCs you choose, or if they're at a table with other characters. If they're the only ones you've chose, it actually explains my headcanon a little bit, where Kamina and Simone basically confirm that they're from alternative timelines, but they're still yeah, you're still my bro.
That's great.
You think maybe Nia kissed Yoko at some point, and that's why she died?
Oh no.
Anyway, I think you told me in DMs to maybe not probe that ambiguous situation too much if you don't have to.
Oops. Well, you didn't DM me.
So I've tried not to.
It's the sort of thing where yeah, we could have them talk about it at length, but I feel like there's more interesting ways to approach banter with Simone than getting fixated on a character that isn't there,
Right. Maybe you should have just made like Simone and Nia, like Zeke and Pandora.
The only real critique I have for him is that I do think there are parts of his dialogue where he does sound a bit more like Kamina than Simone to me, which is, again, it's tough because he is Kamina's protege at this point, and his resemblance to him and stylistic similarities are very, very much meant to be noticeable. But he does at times feel a little bit like they do. I always feel like they do actually have different voices, and he does. Like, I think, like, I'm trying to think, like, he has a line when somebody strips and he calls them a crybaby, and I'm like, that sounds more like Kamina than like something Simone would say.
Simone's a little more like grounded, a little more understanding. Like Kamina's kind of like always trying to be like the hype man, the hype hero guy, the leader. With Simone, I guess it's more like a switch he can flip. Do you agree?
Yeah, very much so. Thinking about the crybaby comment, I think that's a filtered line to a negative tag, but I forget what tag it was to. Were you pairing him with, like, Reagan?
I paired him with, in his game it would have been Simone, Dolce, and then I had Reagan and Arafuda there as well, so it would have been one of those four.
I want to say it's probably something Reagan has, like mean or sarcastic or something.
That seems plausible. She has a whole laundry list of negative tags.
No, I get
Now I
what
want to
you're
see him
saying.
like give her a pep talk by just slugging her across the face. I mean, we're coming up on an hour now. I think we may have already just passed it. So I'll make this quick. But overall, it's obviously a very well-made character. You know what you're doing. And I think you got across what you wanted to very well. I like his custom hands that he has a lot. I like his sheepish little fingers he has in this one pose that I uploaded here. I mentioned last time with Vanessa that he just kind of mogged me immediately with her. They went off on each other the entire time. They were ready to start doing each other right there and then. But like they were fun enough targets, even if they were very explanation heavy. And he also had a good filter to the beach background, although I don't remember what it is now. But the last and biggest thing I want to mention about him is that it is very nice that he has a nice variety in the body language with Buta and the way that Buta will often mirror his body language, but also I like that he introduces something else so broad for other characters to interact with. You know, I mean, that's in the spirit of the game. Like, you can't really target everybody anymore, but creating opportunities for unique interactions like that, where they interact with Buta, is it's nice. It's nice and memorable. So I appreciate that you had that idea to do that.
Yeah.
So, any final comments on Simone or on Dolce or on Purah? Either of you?
Honestly, just a very solid lineup with these three. It does seem like standards are very high these days, and I'm impressed with all the work everybody's doing.
For Simone, I can just really say that I am thinking of giving him event costumes, but in terms of canon, there's very little to work with. He only really has his civilian outfit, which isn't very event specific, and then when he was in a swimsuit when he was a teenager, it was literally just like swim trunks and that's it. But I'll think of something, I'm sure. I'd like to keep updating him. Yeah, I'm really happy with how Purah turned out, and I like what's happening with Dolce. Stuff all around.
I think it is Dolce. I think I've been saying Dolce a little too much, but yeah, Dolce. Sorry if I may. I'll try to get it right when she hits main. I believe in you. Good characters all around these past two episodes. I want to thank you as always, Nord, and thank you very much, Mike, for coming on as a guest. Looking forward to Reagan hitting main as well, and we'd be happy to have you back anytime.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
So, as we end off episode 130, I'd like to give you this final question, viewers, for you to ponder in between release dates, which is, what does the number 131 mean to you? Is it a prime number? Does anyone know? While you think about that, or go on Bulbapedia perhaps to find a Pokemon with a base stat of 131 somewhere, probably an Ultra Beast or something. We'll see you next time.